Suffering is not the enemy of freedom. It is the gate that asks if you truly want to pass through. I will not flatter you with convenient comforts. You and I both know that the day you most wanted to quit did not ask your permission to arrive. Pain rarely schedules a polite appointment. It stumbles in like weather and sits in your chair. Yet here is the first scandalous truth. The very thing you resist may be the only instrument fine-tuned enough to cut you free from all that already enslaves you. What enslaves you? Expectations you did not choose. Stories about success that are not yours. The quiet despair of living someone else's life while your own calls you by your real name from another room. I learned this not in a classroom, but in places where hope thins to a thread and yet refuses to break. There, I discovered that suffering removes the camouflage of triviality. It takes away the false crown we place on comfort and hands us a mirror that cannot lie. It says, look, you are not your possessions, not your status, not your vanished certainties. You are your stance. Freedom, then, is not a permission from the world. It is a position taken toward the world. You may protest, and rightly so. How can the unwanted be the path to what I most desire? Because meaning is not the sweetness sprinkled on life when things taste good. Meaning is the quiet strength that makes bitterness bearable and even transformative. If pleasure is the weather, meaning is the climate. Weather changes. Climate endures. Perhaps no one has told you this. Suffering, when faced with dignity, is not a detour from life's purpose. It is a corridor inside it. It drills down through the sediments of distraction and finds the aquifer of intention, the water table of your will. Suffering asks questions that no comfort dares to ask. Who are you without applause? What do you value when no one is counting? For whom are you willing to remain kind when kindness looks foolish? These are not cruel questions. They are liberating ones. Because the moment you answer them, you stop living at the mercy of moods and begin living by meaning. There is a paradox that rescues us. We cannot always choose our circumstances, but we can choose the stance with which we meet them. That stance, responsibility for our response, is the birthplace of freedom, and responsibility is a difficult love. It does not shield us from the wind. It trains us to stand in it. The world can strip you. The world cannot decide for you. The world can wound. The world cannot dictate whether you will become embittered or ennobled. In that thin, almost invisible space between what happens to you and how you answer, there is a sovereignty no one can occupy except you. Guard that space. It is the seed of your freedom. Let me be candid. Suffering will tempt you with shortcuts. Cynicism masquerades as wisdom. Numbness pretends to be peace. Avoidance calls itself self-care while smuggling in despair. But cynicism is a locked door to a room without windows. Numbness is a sleep that refuses to dream, and avoidance is a map that never draws a destination. The cost of these shortcuts is your own aliveness. The alternative is not masochism. It is courage. The refusal to let pain be the author of your meaning while allowing it to be a teacher of your strength. You ask, perhaps in a whisper you barely admit, what if my life has no plot? What if my suffering is only chaos? The answer is unsettling and kind. Your life does not come with a plot. It comes with a pen. Suffering places the ink in your hand because it compels you to choose. If not this, then what? If not here, then where? If not now, then when? If not for me, then for whom? These are the grammar of meaning. These are the verbs of freedom. So let us begin at the point most people end. Acceptance. Acceptance is not surrender. It is orientation. It is the act of facing north before embarking anywhere. To accept that something hurts is not to celebrate pain, but to stop lying to yourself about it. When you stop lying, you stop leaking power. Now you have energy to spend on what you can still choose. And there is much you can still choose. Your words, your attention, your loyalties, your rituals, your duties. The people you will not abandon. The promises you will not break. The beliefs you will not betray. Meaning thrives where responsibility is accepted. You do not need to predict the future to live meaningfully. You need to decide the character with which you will greet it. Today, perhaps the only plot twist available to you is to refuse the narrative that you are helpless. And so I tell you, suffering is not the only thing that can happen to you, but it may be the only thing that can reveal who you still are when everything else is removed. That revelation is not humiliation, it is emancipation. Most of what you fear losing are costumes. Most of what you cannot lose is character. I will give you a practice, simple and demanding. When pain arrives, ask it one question. What value in me are you preparing to reveal? Patience, courage, faithfulness, truthfulness, humility, hope? These are not abstractions. They are muscles that only grow through resistance. Pain is the gymnasium you did not join but cannot avoid. Leave the room every time and you will remain as you entered. Stay with attention and you will leave stronger. Attention is love applied to reality. Suffering purifies attention. In the crucible of difficulty, you learn to see what matters. The fog lifts, and at last you recognize the face of what you must become. There will be voices that call this naive. Let them talk. Naivete is not believing that suffering can refine you. Naivete is believing that comfort can. The comforts worth keeping are those sanctified by responsibility. The comfort of a promise kept, of a friend defended, of a duty fulfilled, of a truth told at cost. These are the comforts that suffering cannot steal, and in fact, often helps you discover. Do not wait to be unafraid to begin. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the governance of it. And governance begins with a decision that can be made by anyone at any time. I will not let pain be wasted. I will spend it on fidelity, on kindness, on work that matters, on love that refuses to flee at the first inconvenience. This is how suffering becomes freedom. Not because it feels good, but because it frees you from the tyranny of feelings as the only compass. You may already be carrying more than you admitted. You have survived things your past self could not imagine. That resilience is not an accident. It is an achievement. Yet even resilience can grow tired if it is not nourished by meaning. So feed it with purpose. Tie your endurance to a why larger than your comfort. The human heart can endure almost anyhow if it knows the why. But the why must be chosen, not inherited from the loudest advertisement or the nearest fear. Choose a why that would be worth your life, for you are spending your life either way. Let me say it plain. You are freer than you think, even here, even now. Not because the world will be kind, sometimes it will not, but because you can decide to be kind within it. Not because fate will spare you, often it will not, but because you can refuse to become cruel. Not because the path will be smooth. It rarely is, but because you can walk with integrity when it is not. There's the only freedom no tyrant can touch, the freedom to be a certain kind of person under uncertain conditions. When you accept this, something subtle yet seismic occurs. You stop waiting for permission to live and begin living by permission granted from within. Outside circumstances retain their power to shape but not to define. Suffering keeps arriving as weather does, but you have learned where to stand. You are not a leaf, you are a root. And roots, when storms come, do not ask the wind to be gentler. They dig deeper. That is what you will do now. Do not confuse resignation with acceptance. Resignation shrugs and says nothing can be done. Acceptance looks straight at reality and asks what noble thing can still be done. Resignation is the posture of a spectator. Acceptance is the posture of a participant. I choose participation, not because I am guaranteed victory, but because I am guaranteed meaning when I refuse to abandon my responsibility. This is the dignity no circumstance can confiscate. When I speak of responsibility, I mean something quiet and exacting. It is the discipline of selecting your response as a sculptor selects the next chisel stroke. The stone is heavy, yes. The shape waits inside it, also yes. Responsibility is the hand that keeps chiseling even when the dust stings the eyes. You may never carve the stone into everything you imagined, but you can cut away what you know does not belong. Bitterness that calcifies the heart, envy that corrodes attention, the lazy lie that your choices are too small to matter. Remove what is false, and the true figure appears. Freedom begins in attention. Whatever captures your attention begins to shape your life. Suffering tries to hijack attention, to occupy every window of your mind with flashing red. But attention can be trained like breath. I have learned to ask, toward which good, however small, can I turn my awareness now? It may be as simple as the steadiness of a chair carrying my weight, the miracle of language allowing me to say thank you, the fact that I can still choose a word that heals instead of harms. These are not sentimental gestures. They are acts of governance over the inner state. The exterior may remain stormed. The interior requires orientation. You may think orientation is abstract. It is not. Orientation becomes choices you can touch. It becomes the text you send where you could have gone silent. It becomes the apology you offer before your pride drafts a defense. It becomes washing a cup thoroughly because care is a way of telling the truth with your hands. It becomes keeping a promise on a day when your feelings argued for an excuse. Meaning is not discovered only in the grand epiphanies. It is manufactured in the workshop of the ordinary where the soul either keeps faith or bargains with convenience. I have seen people saved by a task. The task itself was not dramatic. Tending a garden, writing a page each morning, preparing a simple meal for someone who depended on them, showing up at a hospital to read aloud to those who could not sleep. The task rescued them because it gave their pain a channel. Unchanneled pain floods the landscape and drowns what is living. Channeled pain irrigates a field and feeds a harvest. Choose a task that answers your values and let it become your apprenticeship to meaning. We are often prisoners of comparisons. Suffering worsens when we measure our path against someone else's highlight reel. Comparison is a thief of courage. It convinces you that your effort is too small to matter because it is not spectacular. I remind you, the world is mended by fidelity, not spectacle. Fidelity is quiet, repetitive, and stubborn. It lays one honest brick today and another tomorrow, until a shelter stands where once there was only weather. Who will care that your shelter lacks a grand entrance if it keeps someone warm? Let fidelity be your architecture. In the darkest seasons, 2 questions have guided me. First, what is the next right thing? Small, concrete, aligned with my value, that I can do within the next hour. Not tomorrow, not after I feel better. Not when circumstances improve, within the next hour. Second, who can receive a kindness from me right now? These questions turn suffering from a sealed room into a door. They do not erase pain, but they prevent it from becoming purposeless. I must speak of the danger of narratives that glorify avoidance. Our age sells 1,000 versions of escape. Scroll away, drink away, buy away, work away, smile away. I will not condemn comfort. Comfort has its place. But comfort without conscience makes cowards of us. You do not need to torch your pleasures. You need to order them under a purpose. When pleasure serves purpose, it becomes restoration. When purpose serves pleasure, it becomes addiction. Do not be seduced by the counterfeit freedom of detachment from all responsibility. A life that vows never to be entangled also vows never to love. Love entangles by design. It ties you to names and faces, to duties and places, to the fragile miracle of being needed. This is not a trap. It is an invitation to matter. Suffering will visit the entangled more readily, yes, but so will meaning. The price of meaning is vulnerability. The reward of vulnerability is significance. There are days when meaning feels absent. On those days, trust your rituals. A ritual is a promise you make to yourself in calm that you will keep in chaos. Wake and make the bed. Order asserts itself. Sit and breathe for 5 minutes. Presence returns. Write 1 page of truth. Integrity takes a step. Step into daylight and walk. The body remembers it belongs to the world and the world remains larger than your pain. Rituals do not solve the problem. They keep you from abandoning yourself while you solve the problem. The self must be addressed with honesty and tenderness. Harshness masquerades as strength but secretly breeds shame. Indulgence masquerades as tenderness, but secretly breeds avoidance. Speak to yourself as you would speak to a friend you respect. Direct, compassionate, unwilling to flatter, unwilling to humiliate. This tone becomes an inner guide more reliable than adrenaline. When suffering mounts, adrenaline shouts. Conscience speaks. Train your ear for conscience. You may ask how meaning relates to truth. They are married. Meaning without truth is manipulation. Truth without meaning is cruelty. Suffering urges shortcuts that twist both. Either a soothing lie that helps no one or a brutal truth hurled without love. Choose the union. Speak the truth in service of a good, and shape your good in obedience to what is true. This union is costly because it forbids you to become either a liar or a cynic. But the cost buys credibility with your own soul. I often return to 3 verbs: attend, align, act. Attend to what is real rather than what you fear. Align your intention with your highest chosen value. Act in one small way that embodies that alignment. Repeat. The repetition is the key. Many people attempt a heroic leap and then collapse. Few commit to a humble cadence and become strong. Cadence outlasts drama. Cadence turns a human life into a long obedience in the same direction. Let us examine fear. Fear's first lie is that it is protecting you. Often it is protecting your comfort. Fear's second lie is that it knows the future. It does not. Fear's third lie is that you are alone. You are not. Even when no one stands beside you, you stand in the company of countless souls who have suffered and continued. Draw from them. The human story is a rope thrown across ravines. Hold it. When you hold it, you find that courage moves through you like borrowed electricity. It is still your hand that holds. It is not only your hand that supplies the current. When I speak of borrowed courage, I mean memory, example, and promise. Remember a moment you kept faith under pressure. Let that memory testify that you can do so again. Consider an example, someone whose quiet steadfastness enlarged your own. Let their example argue against your resignation. Make a promise to someone who needs you tomorrow. Let that promise create gravity that keeps you from drifting tonight. Memory, example, and promise. 3 cords braided, strong enough to pull a person through an hour that declares itself impossible. Some suffering arrives with no visible meaning. I will not pretend otherwise. There are losses that defy explanation, injustices that mock comprehension. Here, meaning shifts from explanation to consecration. You are not required to justify what happened. You are invited to transform your relation to it. You consecrate the grief by deciding that this pain will not render you cruel. You consecrate it by dedicating your endurance to the protection of someone weaker. You consecrate it by refusing to pass along the harm that visited you. Consecration does not clean the wound. It prevents infection of the soul. Guard against the nihilism that sometimes passes for sophistication. It is easy to appear intelligent by rolling your eyes at hope. Hope is not naive. It is disciplined expectation that the good remains possible with your participation. Hope is not a prediction. It is a posture. Predictions fail. Posture holds. To stand in hope is to train your imagination to look for doors where others see only walls. It is to practice the moral imagination that asks, what faithful action would be consistent with the world I want to help create? Then to take that action without applause. Learn to distinguish pain that asks for patience from pain that asks for change. Some pain is the cost of devotion. The strain of keeping a vow. The fatigue of caring for the vulnerable. The loneliness of telling the truth. This pain is to be carried with grace. Other pain is the smoke of a fire that must be put out. The ache of a boundary violated. The knot of a lie tolerated. The fever of a toxic habit. This pain is to be heeded, not endured indefinitely. Wisdom is the physician that writes the correct prescription. Stay or depart, persevere or pivot, forgive or confront. Ask for wisdom daily. It grows with use. If you are tempted to surrender your agency to fate, remember, even when you cannot move the mountain, you can decide what to carry up it. Choose virtues as your provisions. Carry patience. It will keep your feet steady. Carry humility. It will keep your footing honest. Carry courage. It will keep your breath from turning against you. Carry humor. It will keep your heart from hardening. Carry faithfulness. It will keep you from turning back for lesser reasons than you came. These provisions do not lighten the mountain. They strengthen the climber. I must tell you what freedom is not. It is not the permission to do whatever you feel in the moment. That is impulse, occasionally amusing and often destructive. Freedom is the power to do what you judge to be right, even when feelings resist. Feelings are weather. Conscience is compass. A sailor who confuses the two wrecks the voyage. Take your readings from conscience, then sail through the weather, adjusting your sails without abandoning your course. Practice speaking the language of responsibility without the accent of shame. Responsibility says, I will answer with my best. Shame says, I am unworthy to answer at all. Shame freezes. Responsibility mobilizes. When you fail, and you will, answer with confession rather than collapse. Confession is not self-contempt. It is self-respect for the truth. It repairs the bridge between who you are and who you intend to be. Choose mentors who demand more of you than your fears do. A true mentor does not flatter your excuses. They call your courage by name. If you lack such a person, adopt a mentor from history, literature, or your memory of the best version of yourself. Ask of them, silently, "What would you have me do now?" Then do the next meaningful thing. In time, your actions will tutor your emotions, and your emotions will begin to respect your actions. Let us consider the economy of attention again. What you repeatedly attend to becomes sacred to you. If you attend to grievance, grievance becomes your liturgy. If you attend to gratitude, gratitude becomes your liturgy. A liturgy is a set of practiced words and movements that shape your heart, even when your heart is not yet convinced. Choose a liturgy worthy of your future self. Let gratitude be one of its chief prayers. Gratitude does not cancel grief. It places grief within a larger frame where goodness is not erased by pain but persists alongside it. You will meet critics, some external, some internal. The external critic may misunderstand you. Treat them with clarity and charity. The internal critic may misrepresent you. Treat it with truth and boundaries. Ask, is this criticism accurate, kind, and helpful? If yes, consider it a gift and adjust. If no, release it as you would release a stone not meant for your pocket. Do not carry unnecessary weight up an already steep hill. There is also the temptation of control disguised as care. You will try to manage outcomes that do not belong to you, to arrange other people's choices to reduce your anxiety. This is not responsibility. It is domination in a worried costume. It is domination in a worried costume. Trade it for stewardship. Care deeply, influence honestly, and surrender the part that is not yours. Surrender is not apathy. It is respect for reality's boundaries and for other people's freedom to choose their own path to meaning. Speak blessings often. A blessing is the opposite of a curse. A curse says, be diminished. A blessing says, be enlarged. Bless your friends with your attention. Bless your adversaries with the refusal to dehumanize them. Bless strangers with small courtesies that affirm their worth. To bless is to participate in the quiet construction of a world where dignity is the default. This construction continues under all weather and does not require permission from the times. Sometimes you will feel invisible. When recognition fails to arrive, ask a braver question. Have I recognized myself? Recognition begins within, the acknowledgement that your efforts align with your values. This is the recognition that liberates. External approval is a pleasant visitor. Internal approval is a steady companion. Live to be respectable to your own conscience. The rest belongs to the wind. Forgiveness will be asked of you and from you. When you are asked to forgive, examine whether reconciliation is wise or possible. Forgiveness is a gift of release, not an erasure of memory or boundaries. Forgiveness frees you from being the archivist of another's offense. When you must ask for forgiveness, do it without bargaining. Let your apology be a simple admission, a pledge to repair, and a demonstration through changed behavior. Suffering handled without forgiveness becomes a museum of grievances. Suffering handled with forgiveness becomes a school of mercy. I commend to you the craft of meaning-making through language. Words are instruments, tune them. Speak precisely, not to impress, but to reveal reality and honor the person before you. Avoid the inflation of exaggeration. It weakens trust. Avoid the erosion of sarcasm. It often hides cowardice. Say what you mean what you say. When words align with truth, they become hinges on which doors can open. In the valley of uncertainty, ask of each choice, does this increase my capacity to love and to be responsible? If yes, proceed. If not, reconsider. Responsibility without love becomes tyranny. Love without responsibility becomes sentimentality. The union produces character, and character produces the freedom I have been describing. The freedom to remain a certain kind of person when being that person costs you something. Remember the arithmetic of small faithfulness. A single kept promise creates a corridor through which other kept promises can walk. One courageous sentence emboldens the next. One day of sober effort lifts the second from the impossible to the merely difficult. Do not despise small beginnings. Despise only beginnings you refuse to make. Finally, let me offer you a compact you can carry in your pocket when the hour is bleak. I will not waste this pain. I will translate it into a posture that protects what is good, creates what is missing, and refuses what is demeaning to my soul or to yours. I will look for the smallest meaningful action and take it. I will return tomorrow and take it again. I will watch for beauty as proof that the world is not exhausted. I will allow humor to sit at my table, for laughter restores proportion. I will measure success by the integrity of my stance and the mercy of my presence. And when I fail, I will begin again. Not because beginning again is easy, but because beginning again is a privilege given to those who are still alive. This is how suffering becomes a gate rather than a wall. It does not ask you to admire it. It asks you to answer it. Answer with your stance, your task, your ritual, your blessing, your courage borrowed and returned with interest. Answer with your refusal to become smaller than your values. Answer until the answer becomes your character, and your character becomes your freedom. There are seasons in a life when words themselves seem insufficient, when language clings to the edges of what you feel and phrase. I will not litter this hour with platitudes. Instead, I will offer you a map drawn in small glyphs. Practical pathways, quiet liturgies, and precise attitudes you can cultivate so that suffering serves and does not merely consume. Begin with a minute-by-minute experiment. I do not recommend it because it is dramatic. I recommend it because truth is often found in the margin and not on the marquee. For 1 hour, notice every time your attention is pulled toward grievance. Each time you catch that movement, name it softly, grievance, and then ask 2 questions. What is true here? And what can I do now that is consistent with what is true? This practice has 3 effects. First, it trains subtle recognition. You become an early observer of your mental weather. Second, it converts abstract suffering into specific facts and possible actions. Third, it introduces the small authority of choice into moments that felt automatic. The hour will pass. The habits it begins will not. There is also an exercise I borrow from the old crafts, invisible mending. Take a single wound, an unresolved conversation, a long festering regret, a habit that keeps returning, and consider how you might repair it without spectacle. Invisible mending is the art of stitches that are neither announced nor praised. It is cleaning the house of your soul quietly, returning a borrowed book, sending the overdue message, facing the truth rather than the rumor about it. This is not moral busywork. It is the patience of someone restoring a delicate garment. Over time, the fabric of your days becomes stronger precisely because you have attended to these small repairs. Imagine, for a moment, a cathedral built by those who could not see the final nave. Each mason laid a stone they would never see held in place by others after them. Your life is like that cathedral. Much of your faithful work will be invisible to you. To live only for visible reward is to impoverish the builder's heart. Instead, labor as if your hands were writing letters to the future. What would you like them to read when they stand on the foundations you set today? This posture imagines eternity into ordinary tasks. It rehallows the thin places where suffering is present. Tell me, have you noticed how often we rehearse stories that make our pain the center of the universe? Rehearsal is a kind of theater your mind stages again and again. If the play is tragic, you will be cast as the perennial victim. If the play is redemptive, you will be cast as a participatory agent. You cannot entirely stop the mind from rehearsing, but you can direct the script. Interrupt the rehearsal with rehearsal for action instead. Practice what you would say to someone you love in a similar condition. Practice the posture of offering help. Practice calling a friend even if you are tempted to sink into solipsism. Acting before you feel moved shifts the center of gravity from paralysis to purpose. There are conversations you should have with yourself. Deliberate incursions into your private council chamber. Sit down and ask, which of my values would I defend if all others abandoned me? What would I still teach my children or friends if I had to deliver only one lesson? What would I rather suffer for than surrender? Answer these with the same seriousness you would allocate to a will. These answers become alienable goods, principles that suffering might test but cannot take. When the world strips away comforts, these answers remain as inventory of what you would still stand for. Let us talk about the economy of small kindnesses. You may think kindness is primarily for the recipient. It is also a strategy for your own survival. When you practice honest courtesy, letting someone cut ahead in line when you have the time, leaving a generous tip when you can afford it, writing a note of appreciation, you create micro-resources of connection. These micro-resources deposit into an account of communal goodwill that will sometimes be withdrawn in your hour of need. Human life is an interdependent ledger. We are not islands whose account balances are only personal. We are networks of deposit and withdrawal. Invest in others. It is a prudent way to finance your endurance. Suffering often brings two distortions: the dramatization of future catastrophe and the minimization of present resources. The dramatization composes a film strip of worst-case scenarios that your nervous system plays on loop. The minimization forgets all the small capacities you still possess: your voice, your hands, your memory of how to forgive, a recipe you cook well, a person who loves you. Confront both distortions with a ledger. Write down what you were afraid might happen, and beside each fear list one concrete countermeasure you could take. Then beneath that, write 5 resources you have that could make even a small difference. This document will feel ordinary. It will have the practical effect of lowering the volume of despair by insisting the mind do what the body will soon be asked to do: plan, act, and persist. There's a paradoxical truth about suffering. It magnifies whatever sits at the center of your life. If vanity sits there, suffering will amplify insecurity. If convenience sits there, suffering will amplify laziness. If love sits there, suffering will amplify generosity and courage. Choose your center wisely. If you find vanity there, practice humiliation in small doses. Humiliation not as punishment but as a corrective. Do a humble task without seeking credit. If convenience sits there, practice discipline. Wake a little earlier and give that extra hour to someone else. Place love, service, and truth at the center intentionally, and then watch how suffering refracts through a lens that enlarges what is good. Now some counsel on boundaries, which are not walls but gates. When you suffer, it is tempting to let everyone in as though you need that validation to heal. But desperation dilutes the quality of the company you keep. Be willing to say no to those requests that will further erode you, and yes to those that will build you. A boundary is a yes to capacity and a no to depletion. Saying no can be an act of love when it protects your ability to remain present for those who truly depend on you. Practice saying no kindly, directly, and without excessive explanation. We need to speak plainly about addictions of all kinds. Suffering offers them like a quick anesthetic. If you find yourself escaping into substances, endless scrolling, compulsive busyness, or romantic fantasy to avoid the rawness of your condition, name it aloud, and then seek one corrective action. That action might be calling a trusted friend, attending a support group, scheduling a short walk in daylight, or composing a list of 3 tasks you will complete before allowing yourself another diversion. The aim is not moralism, but restoration of agency. Recovery begins in the small decisions that reclaim your time and your attention. There is also dignity in asking for help. Asking is not capitulation. It is strategy. If pride keeps you from seeking the aid you need, reverse the calculation. Pride is expensive and often bankrupting. Asking for help, when appropriate, is economical and brave. Choose one person and say what is true in simple terms. I am having difficulty with X. I need Y. Specify what you need, practical, emotional, or logistical, and allow another person the honor of helping. People often want to help but do not know how. Telling them is a gift. Allow me to insist on regular solitude as a discipline. I do not mean loneliness, which is cruelty without consolation. I mean solitude that is chosen. An hour with a book, a walk without headphones, a room where no one speaks to you and you do not speak to them. In solitude, your impulses meet your conscience. Without the pressure of performance, you can rehearse the responses you would give in easier circumstances. Solitude is a practice field. Return there often and you will find that your reactions in public become less reactive and more intentional. I will offer 2 practices to convert suffering into narrative rather than noise. The first is a short journal ritual. Each night, write 3 things that resisted you during the day, and next to each, one small faithful action you took or could take in response. The second is a ritual of naming. Once a week, name the emotion you felt most prominently and write one sentence explaining what that emotion wanted to protect or achieve. This decompression ritual is not therapy replacing. It is therapy enabling. It helps your mind find meaning by turning diffused discomfort into definable challenges. Consider your environment. Our interior life is shaped by what we allow near our eyes and ears. Clean the surfaces you control. A tidy desk, a plant that is watered, a window that lets light in. These are not trivial luxuries, but scaffolding for attention. When your outer world signals care, your inner world is more willing to be cared for. Do not mistake environmental change for psychological cure. It is a necessary ally, not the sole solution. An account of gratitude, practical and concrete, will do wonders. Each morning for a month, list one thing you did not have yesterday that you now have. They may be absurdly small. Coffee that tasted warm, a neighbor who smiled, a street that is safe to walk on. This practice retrains your perceptual muscles to look for assets rather than only deficits. It does not deny loss. It refuses to let loss erase all notice of good. Gratitude and grief can coexist when practiced bluntly and honestly. There are sacred errors to avoid. Do not sanctify suffering as if pain itself were holy. Suffering is not a virtue in itself. Rather, what becomes noble is the manner in which we meet suffering. Do not adopt suffering as your identity. Suffering can be an element of your story. It should not become the whole book. Resist the temptation to score moral points from your pain. Instead, translate pain into purpose. We must examine humility, because humility is the soil where courage grows. False humility is self-abasing. True humility is reality-telling. It sees both the limits of one's control and the depth of one's calling. When you practice true humility, you no longer need to perform strength. You can be transparent about weakness and still act with resolve. That transparency invites others to be real with you, which creates the possibility of mutual repair rather than solo performance. Practice a final experiment with me. For 1 week, before you react to any bad news, take a single breath and count to 4. Use that breath to expand your field of view beyond immediate sensation. Ask yourself, who else is in this story? What larger value would I like to serve in my response? How will my choice tomorrow look when I tell the story of this moment to someone I love? These breaths will not end hardship, but they will introduce deliberation into reaction. And deliberation is the first step toward making suffering speak in a renaissance of character. I will close this continued expansion with a short, concrete liturgy you can use at the bedside of your own disquiet. Each night before sleeping, place one hand over your heart and say quietly, "This pain is real. I will not pretend it is not. I will not waste it. Tonight I will rest so I can serve tomorrow." Repeat this 3 times. This is not magical incantation. It is an embodied covenant. It instructs your body to yield where necessary, your conscience to refuse waste, and your will to prepare for another day of faithful action. There is no promise here that the road will ease. There is only the stronger promise that if you refuse to let pain define you, you will be given a place from which to love and labor. Small things, repeated and faithful, that will alter the lives of people you will probably never meet. This is the quiet revolution that suffering allows. Ordinary persons becoming repositories of courage, dignity, and steadfastness. Choose to be such a repository. The world will be better for it, and you will be freer than you imagined possible. There is another kind of courage few admire, but many secretly need. The courage to be ordinary. We are sold mythology about instantaneous reinvention, dramatic epiphanies that rewrite destinies overnight. In truth, most transformation is slow, a patient rearrangement of small choices made again and again. To choose the ordinary, consistently, deliberately, is to refuse the fevered pursuit of novelty that empties life of depth. Ordinary courage means showing up when the applause is absent, keeping your hands clean when no one watches, and cultivating the steady rhythms that let a soul thicken rather than splinter. Because suffering is often felt most acutely in the space between expectation and reality, manage the expectations you carry into each day. Expect less from outcomes and more from character. Expect to be tested. Do not expect to be spared. Expect your energy to ebb at times. Do not expect it to be constant. When expectations are modest, disappointments are fewer, and the endurance required is clearer and more manageable. Modest expectations do not dim ambition. they refine it. They ask you to direct your ambition toward things that do not hinge entirely on fickle chance. Your patience, your precision, your attentiveness to small loyalties. We must also reckon with time. Suffering warps our sense of it. Either it balloons into an endless present, or it rushes us toward imagined futures. Break your time into increments you can steward. An hour of focused work, a morning of careful conversation, an evening that restores. Time, when owned in pieces, becomes manageable. Time, when surrendered to anxiety, becomes tyrannical. There are practical structures that protect your internal life. One is a named decision. I will not decide when I am exhausted. Fatigue throttles judgment. Name a brief pause when your major choices may wait until you have slept, consulted a friend, or walked until your head clears. This tiny policy prevents 1,000 regrettable actions taken under the sway of transient pain. Another structure, a public accountability that is humble, not performative. Tell one trustworthy person a modest, specific intention. Finish a draft this week, call an estranged sibling, attend a therapy session, and invite them to ask about it. The request is inexpensive for the other person but transformative for you. Accountability allies the social world with inner resolve. It makes solitary promises into communal ones, and that social seam stitches you to follow through. Suffering sometimes secretes a moral fog. Facts become disputed, memories colored, motives suspected. In such fog, commit to forensic kindness. Seek information before accusing. Ask generous, clarifying questions before assuming betrayal. This is not naivety. It is a disciplined method for preserving sanity and relationships amid pain. When clarity is impossible, practice tethering your actions to what you know rather than to what you fear. When you do not know enough, act conservatively toward harm and generously toward repair. Consider your use of narrative. If you tell the same story about your life that always ends in defeat, you will tend to set up patterns that fulfill that prophecy. Begin to retell episodic moments with an eye toward agency. Where you once said, "This always happens to me," rehearse instead, "When this happens, I have chosen X." The change is subtle but seismic. You are shifting from passive plotline to active authorship. Language precedes behavior. Redraft your script in small ways and then live the script until it becomes true. Let us address grief, that particular tutor. Grief will not be hurried. It arrives insisting on its own calendar. Honor its pace. Do not demand growth before mourning has had its say. At the same time, do not let grief monopolize the entire stage of your life. Allocate it time and place. A daily window to remember, to cry, to speak the name that aches. Outside that window, re-engage with obligations that anchor you, friends who need you, tasks that require a functional hand. This rhythm integrates grief without allowing it to fossilize your heart. There is virtuosity and limitation. You cannot carry all burdens, nor should you try. Practice triage, what requires your immediate energy, what needs a plan, and what you must let go. Make 3 lists, urgent, strategic, and dispensable, and examine them with strict integrity. Many things we anxiously clutch would not break the world if released. The wisdom is to recognize what truly demands your stewardship and to let the rest return to the flow of things. Cultivate a practice I call listening to the small. Many people wait for the thunderclap of revelation and miss the whisper that preceded it. Pay attention to small consistencies. An urge to write, a recurring worry that points to a boundary, a persistent curiosity about a subject. These small things are often the seeds of vocation. Tending them in minor ways prepares you for major exigencies. When suffering comes, these cultivated smalls provide meaningful outlets rather than mere distractions. Suffering amplifies the company you keep. Choose companions who enlarge rather than diminish. Not all generosity deserts you. Some people will be thirsty for your witness and will show up to give you strength. Beware of those who collect suffering to advertise their own resilience or who measure your pain against their scoreboard. Seek those whose presence invites repair. People who listen without immediately prescribing, who mourn with you rather than performing pity, who call you to action over perpetual commiseration. Community is not a cure-all, but the wrong community can conscript you into amplifier roles that keep you stuck. Money and material insecurity complicate suffering. Practical stressors demand pragmatic solutions. If finances are an anxiety, Take specific steps, budget realistically, seek counsel, and where possible, create marginal increases in security through small incremental gains. Financial hope is often built on small steady repairs, a saved emergency fund, a negotiated bill, a side task that produces modest income. Do not romanticize poverty as a shorthand for spiritual depth. Neither idolize wealth. Steward what you have so it does not become either an idol or a source of chronic shame. Let me insist on the necessity of structure and grief. Rites, words, and gestures that give form to what is formless. Build rituals around loss that speak your pain into language and action. A ritual can be as simple as lighting a candle and naming the person you miss, or as elaborate as composing a letter you will never send. Rituals translate private ache into public recognition. They let community witness a sorrow that otherwise dissolves into loneliness. We must also speak of moral injury, the wound that occurs not from what happened to us but from what was asked of us that violated our sense of who we should be. For those who have been complicit in something they regret, the path forward likely requires confession, restitution where possible, and dedicated work to restore character. The hardest part is not punishment. It is the patience of rebuilding trust, first with yourself, then with those you affected. This work is slow and non-linear, but it is also the most honest way to convert past harm into future stewardship. When you face chronic suffering, the strategy is stamina rather than speed. Chronic conditions do not yield to heroic bursts. They require sustainable rhythms. Build life around daily recoveries. Sleep, modest exercise, nutrition, small pleasures that do not depend on outcomes, and social check-ins that prevent isolation. Accept that progress will be measured in plateaus and regressions. Celebrate small wins fiercely because they are the true currency in prolonged contests. Language matters when we tell others of our suffering. Avoid catastrophic vocabulary that frames you as permanently broken. Words like ruined or destroyed are rarely accurate and often arrest healing. Use precise descriptions. I am exhausted. I am grieving. I am afraid about X. Precision invites constructive response. Melodrama invites only performance. Speak in ways that enable help, not merely attention. Suffering is also a teacher about the limits of control. Practice releasing the need to micromanage outcomes. This does not mean becoming passive. It means accepting the limits of your influence and focusing energy on the spheres where your choices actually matter. As Epictetus suggested long ago, identify what is within your competence and tend it. Release what is not. This stoic insight is not aloofness but strategic engagement. Do the work of ethical imagination. Rehearse in your mind the kind of response you hope to give when the next provocation comes. Imagine a future conflict, an insult, a betrayal, a loss, and practice responding with the virtues you value. Mental rehearsal conditions the nervous system. When the moment arrives, the practiced response will be more available than panic. Consider the moral truth that suffering often clarifies. Most of what we feared losing was never truly ours. Possessions, positions, and reputations are transitory. Suffering prees open your hands and shows you the things that have been genuinely entrusted to you. Relationships, a faithful presence, small competencies, a witness to truth. Learn to steward these entrusted goods as if they were loans rather than inheritances. Stewardship orients you away from hoarding and toward generous distribution even while you mourn. There are practical ways to shape your attention that are therapeutic. One is the 3 good things practice adapted to hard seasons. Each evening, record 3 small positive occurrences and 1 small act you took that aligned with your values. Over time, this trains your mind to notice agency and goodness even amid difficulty. Another is the compassion break. When overwhelmed, pause and grant yourself a moment of kindness. Place a hand over your heart, name the struggle, remind yourself of your intention to continue. These small techniques are not magic, but they are habit-forming scaffolds for endurance. Suffering often reveals hidden loyalties, things you care about but have not acknowledged. Perhaps you love certain people deeply, but have been reluctant to say so. Perhaps you value a kind of work that your resume does not reflect. Use suffering as a clarifying lens to draft a short list of priorities, and then make small moves toward them. Choose 1 relationship to deepen this month. Choose 1 skill to practice for 15 minutes daily. Let these micro-commitments accumulate into a life that aligns more tightly with your clarified loyalties. One of the quietest arts is learning how to end well. Many of our errors stem from poor endings, an unfinished apology, an unresolved conflict, a habit left without closure. Practice ending. End conversations with gratitude when possible. End tasks with a short ritual of acknowledgement. End days with a brief inventory of what you learned. Ending well does not guarantee happy resolutions, but it ensures decent stewardship of what passes through you. Finally, refuse the tyranny of immediate visibility. Transformations born of suffering are rarely Instagrammable. They are often invisible for months, perhaps years, before their shape becomes apparent. Resist the pressure to report immediate transcendence. Stay faithful in the unseen work. The only audience you must answer to is your future self, someone who will live with the consequences of the choices you make now. Make choices that will allow that future self to say, "You kept faith when it mattered." This continued expansion of ACT I hands you. Again and again, manageable devices, questions, practices, small rituals, and habits that make the rawness of suffering into grist for a life of deliberate freedom. It does not romanticize the furnace. It equips you to work the bellows without becoming consumed. Proceed, then, with both tenderness and steadiness. Let patience be your companion and relentless fidelity your craft. The gate stays before you. You may pass through, step by step, with hands calloused by honest labor and eyes trained to see what remains beautiful even in the smoke. There is a slow art to remaining awake amid pain. It begins with the refusal to be busy only for distraction's sake, and the commitment to be busy for formation's sake. To be formed is not always to feel formed. Many of the deep reshaping processes that suffering invites are subterranean. Like a river carving a canyon, the visible change occurs over centuries, even when every day the same small erosion seems negligible. This is why patience is not a sentiment. It is a long obedience. Cultivate the discipline of returning to the same faithful practice when the novelty of your resolve has faded. The repeated small fidelity is what eventually sculpts character. When suffering visits, language can both wound and heal. Choose words that build rooms rather than ignite fields. I have learned to speak in 3 registers: the register of truth, the register of mercy, and the register of resolve. Truth names facts without cruelty. Mercy softens answers with human tenderness. Resolve translates insight into action. When someone asks what to say to a suffering friend, teach them these 3 registers. Speak the truth about the situation plainly. Wrap it with mercy so it does not destroy the person who hears it. Then state one resolute, simple thing you will do together. This trinity of speech converts vain sympathy into restorative companionship. There is a paradox in responsibility that many miss. The more you accept responsibility for your response, the more you can enlist help for the rest. Responsibility does not mean you carry everything alone. It means you sign up for the question, "What can I do?" rather than the complaint, "Why me?" When you ask, "What can I do?" you invite others to answer that question with you. Responsibility thus opens doors. Blame closes them. Begin your sentences with "I will" or "I can," more than "they did" or "it happened." These small grammatical shifts restructure agency. I want to speak about the rhythm of retreat and advance. Often, the courage to press forward requires the wisdom to withdraw temporarily. Retreat is not always failure. It is strategy when used to gather strength. Choose your retreats like a general chooses a winter encampment, as a time to mend armor, train novices, and plan the spring campaign. Withdraw with an intention, not to hide from life, but to re-enter it stronger and more oriented. A disciplined withdrawal is a prelude to a more coherent return. Suffering clarifies a person's story by shrinking it to essentials. In that thinning, you may discover roles you never acknowledged. You might be a caregiver by nature, an encourager by inclination, a quiet worker who gives structure. I recommend making a short list of 3 roles you would like to be known for if you had to state them in one sentence. I am someone who keeps promises. I am someone who protects the small. I am someone who tells the truth kindly. Keep these roles pinned somewhere visible. When suffering blurs identity, these declarations act like signposts. Experience teaches that the small decisions made under pressure change future possibilities more than the dramatic heroics. Decide now on 3 hard but improvable practices. A habit of listening to one person without interrupting. A discipline to keep your living place orderly for 15 minutes each day. And a commitment to write 1 clear sentence about what you value before you sleep. These practices are not glamorous, but they recompose the nervous system toward steadiness. They are the quiet architecture of a life that can sustain meaning under strain. Do not neglect the body. Suffering assaults not only the heart but the body's housekeeping systems. There is a practical gospel here. Move, breathe, and sleep when you can. Even small physical disciplines, 10 minutes of walking, a consistent bedtime, a simple stretching routine, yield psychological returns because biology and meaning are entangled. If your body is a vessel, then neglect weakens the vessel's ability to carry any cargo, including the cargo of hope. Tend the vessel. When you are tempted to withdraw from the world because the world seems unkind, practice a deliberate generosity. Give something small that costs you nothing but attention. A careful compliment, a note affirming someone's effort, an offer of practical help for an hour. Generosity refocuses the heart outward and interrupts the narcissistic logic of suffering as center. It also confers dignity on both giver and receiver. Regular generosity trains your imagination toward abundance rather than scarcity. I want to name 3 enemies of meaning that are especially clever: false hurry, theatrical virtue, and brittle righteousness. False hurry convinces you that you must act quickly now or else the opportunity for significance will be lost. It produces agitation, not clarity. Theatrical virtue pursues visible acts of piety or goodness to secure reputation rather than character. It hollows meaning into image. Brittle righteousness mistakes being right for being loving. It sacrifices relationships on the altar of being correct. Learn to identify these enemies by their smells. Agitation feels loud and anxious. Theatrical virtue craves applause. Brittle righteousness grows brittle when challenged. Replace them with pace, steady anonymous service, and humble truth-seeking. There will be seasons where the future looks impossible. In those seasons, anchor yourself with a 3-week plan, not a sweeping life redesign, but 3 concrete daily acts you will repeat for 21 days. The psychology of 3 weeks is generous enough to be realistic and long enough to alter habit. Choose acts that are tiny. Write a paragraph. Walk 15 minutes. Call a friend. After 21 days, evaluate. You will have either new momentum or clearer data about what to change next. Let us speak of shame's peculiar gravity. Shame burdens you with a story that you are fundamentally flawed in a way that cannot be repaired. The antidote to shame is confession to a safe listener and a corrective act of repair where possible. Shame seeks secrecy. Confession brings light. When you confess, do not do it to dramatize. Do it to begin repair. Some confessions need professionals. Some need humility and an honest phone call. Identify a safe person in advance so that when shame arrives, you know where to go. Use narrative intentionally. Reframe setbacks as episodes, not identity. An episode is temporary and instructive. Identity is enduring and often rigid. When a failure occurs, say, "This episode taught me X," rather than, "I am broken." Make your language provisional and investigatory. Let setbacks become data for your next strategy rather than verdicts that freeze your motion. Cultivate the modest art of finishing what you start. In a culture of interruptions, completion is a radical virtue. Finish a letter, finish a chore, finish a project even when the spirit of enthusiasm has moved on. The muscle of finishing builds trust with yourself. Trust is the currency of sustained joy. Without it, you will remain perpetually unsettled because your inner life cannot rely on your promises to yourself. I insist on the value of small public vows. Declare one modest thing you will do that can be confirmed by someone else. Read one book and discuss it with a friend. Volunteer once a month. Send a thank you note weekly. Public vows leverage social reality to reinforce inner resolve. Choose people who will ask gently, not who will shame you if you fail. Suffering often compresses moral time so that choices feel urgent or catastrophic even when they are ordinary. Slow the clock by asking, will this matter in 5 years? If the answer is no, attend to the immediate emotional need, but don't let it dictate radical life changes. If the answer is yes, Take time to plan rather than act impulsively. Time framing is a simple cognitive tool that reveals proportional responses. There is a humility in living inside limits. Limits are not merely obstacles, they are features that shape form. Consider how a sonnet gains power from having only 14 lines. In the same way, human flourishing can be cultivated within boundaries. Embrace the constraints of your life as the scaffolding for refined creativity. When resources are limited, the human spirit discovers resourcefulness it did not know it had. A difficult but liberating truth. Some relationships must be tended and some must be ended. Evaluate each significant relationship with 3 questions. Does this relationship help me become the person I intend to be? Does it make space for mutuality? Is harm being repaired or repeated? If the answers are negative and consistent, then consider a measured withdrawal. Ending is not always defeat. It is sometimes an act of stewardship for both parties. Do not confuse solitude with isolation. Practice solitude as a cultivation, not a punishment. Solitude is a fertile place for self-education. Read deliberately. Choose books that tutor courage, patience, and wisdom. Write what you read in a small notebook and translate it into one concrete action per week. Knowledge without practice becomes mere trivia. Practice makes wisdom live in you. I want you to try an experiment in moral imagination I have used with friends and students. Imagine yourself at the end of life, old and looking back. From that vantage, what would you most regret not doing? Often the urgent cares of today shrink when seen from that angle, and the things that truly matter become visible. Use that vision tactically to reorder weeks, not to fantasize, but to prioritize. Practice the art of tidy sorrow. When sorrow visits, give it a place and time and then do what you must in the rest of your hours. Tidy sorrow recognizes that pain requires presence but does not justify perpetual drift. Schedule times to remember, to cry, to write, to speak the name. Outside those times, re-enter the social world with attention. This practice prevents sorrow from eroding your entire life while honoring its claim. Cultivate an inner counsel. Invite 3 archetypes into conversation when you face a hard decision. The prudent elder, who asks about safety and sustainability. The courageous youth, who asks about boldness and risk. And the compassionate friend, who asks about mercy and risk. Relational cost. Give each voice a turn in your reflection and then decide. This method prevents a single emotion from dominating and brings balance to choice. Suffering sharpens the sense of time's finitude. Use that sharpening as a corrective to triviality. Ask daily, what is the single most meaningful act I can do today? Do that act even if the rest of the day remains ordinary. Small meaningful acts accumulate into an enduring life. The question is not rhetorical. Answer it concretely and act. When you feel overwhelmed, return to these 4 anchors: breath, body, small act, connection. Breathe to steady the nervous system. Check the body to meet basic needs. Do a small concrete action to regain agency. Connect with another to resist hermetic collapse. These anchors are simple but effective scaffolds when the cognitive world becomes cacophonous. I will end this installment with a practical, repeatable liturgy to embed all of this into everyday life. Use it in the morning or at a low point. Place one hand on your chest and say slowly, "This pain is real. I will meet it honestly. I will keep one small promise today to someone or to myself. I will look for one person to serve. I will rest when rest is needed and return when strength is found." Repeat these lines and then do one small concrete thing that proves the words true. Write a sentence, make a call, prepare a simple meal for someone, step outside for 10 minutes. The proof converts prayer into practice. Over weeks and months, these tiny proofs reshape the neural pathways of how you respond to suffering. They do not remove the furnace. They teach you to carry necessary things through it. There is a peculiar apprenticeship that suffering offers. The slow learning to read the economy of small mercies. When your large hopes have been reduced by reality, the world does not cease to supply nourishment. It hides it in crumbs. Learn to harvest the crumbs. Notice the neighbor's unhurried greeting, the way a cup of tea warms your palms, the exact syllable in a song that makes your throat loosen. Collect these small mercies as if they were coins. They will purchase endurance long after grandeur has been spent. Let me describe a counter-narrative practice I recommend. The ledger of returns. For each week, write down 3 ways your pain altered you positively. hard-won humility, sharper listening, new clarity about a value. And then spend 1 minute thanking whatever force in the universe you believe in for that return. This is not fatalism. It is recognition that even loss often leaves gifts. Naming those gifts does not dismiss the wound. It dignifies it by acknowledging that life presses both harm and help into our hands. There is a discipline I call the small fidelity experiment. Choose one ordinary duty you could neglect when tired. Washing dishes, replying to an email, sweeping the porch, and vow to keep it visibly well done for 30 days. Do it in such a way that the act itself is its own reward. Clean the plate until water runs clear. Answer the email with thoughtfulness that would matter if a stranger read it. The point is not perfection, but the training of will under condition. After 30 days, you will feel a slow accretion of competence that the mind mistakes for momentum. Consider the sacred practice of naming losses precisely. Vagueness breeds monstrous fears. Specificity shrinks them to something manageable. Instead of saying, "I am losing everything," list the particular things you fear losing and which you are actually losing. Then beside each item, write one concrete next step. Call a counselor, speak with a lawyer, ask a friend for company, inventory what you still own. Action does not erase pain, but it shuts down the panic of amorphous catastrophe. Hospitality is a surprising medicine. Invite one person you know into a simple meal, not for spectacle, but for witness. Hospitality is the practice of saying to suffering, "You are not the end of social life. We will still make a place at table." The table repairs a social nervous system. It teaches that the economy of care still functions even when you feel bankrupt. If inviting someone is too much, accept an invitation. Let presence enter your margins. There's an ethic of small promises I want you to adopt. Make only promises you can plausibly keep. Keep them conspicuously. A kept small promise is a vote of confidence cast toward your future character. A broken small promise is a seed of self-betrayal. If the scale feels too heavy, scale down. Promise to be on time once this week. Promise to be fully present for 10 minutes in one conversation. Honor those commitments and watch how trust with yourself grows into courage for larger risks. Art can be a bridge when words are blunt. Paint a single color across a page, write a line of poetry you would not publish, hum a melody into your phone. The form is less important than the movement. Translating interior weather into shape loosens its grip. When you cannot pray, create. When you cannot speak, sing. When you cannot plan, draw a small map of one reachable step. These acts keep your imaginative muscles from atrophying. I wish to name a grace practice for hostile mornings. The 2-minute altar. At the start of the day, place 2 items on a surface that signify what you intend to defend. An image of a loved one, a small stone, a written value. Spend 2 quiet minutes orienting to them. Touch each item, say its name, and pledge one tiny action that will honor it today. The altar remains a physical reminder when the day's storms attempt to reroute you toward trivial agitation. There is wisdom in cultivating a private language for courage. Decide on a single word or phrase that, when you speak it to yourself, summons steadiness. Hold fast. Again, 1 step. Say it before difficult conversations, before uncomfortable tasks, before sleep. The word becomes a Pavlovian cue for your better self. Over time, it will unlock a practice stance in the nervous system that precedes panic. Do not underestimate the reparative power of attention given well. When someone tells you their pain, practice 3-part listening. First, listen to the content, facts. Second, listen to the emotion, the tone beneath the facts. Third, listen for what the person is not saying, fear, shame, longing. Respond first with an acknowledgement. That sounds painful. Then with a small practical offer, would you like me to? And finally, with silence if needed. You do not need to fix. The well-focused attention itself is often the repair. Develop a habit of clean endings. After meetings, conversations, days, practice a short ritual of closure. A sentence that names what happened, one that names what you learned, and one promise to yourself about the next step. This ritual trains closure muscles that prevent unresolved events from snagging your attention long after they occur. Clean endings free mental energy for new tasks. There is a radical modesty in asking, who would I be without this struggle? Not as an escape, but as a thought experiment. Imagine yourself freed from the current trial. What capacities last? What values do you still hold? Compare that imagined person to who you are now. Often the answer reveals how much of your identity was woven around the struggle itself and invites you to disentangle gently, preserving what is good and letting go of what was circumstantial. I must insist on boundaries of language. Stop rehearsing rhetorical catastrophes that serve no purpose. Replace "I'll never recover" with "This is a season, and I intend to respond by doing 3 concrete things." A, B, C, the grammar of never and always luncheons on hope. Convert absolute language into tactical lists. Practice the weekly audit as a spiritual account. Each Sunday evening, take 30 minutes to review the week. What took energy? What returned energy? What patterns repeated? What one practice helped you most? And what one small change to try next week? This audit converts passive suffering into active learning. Over months, patterns reveal themselves, and you can adjust course with the authority of data from your life. There is a moral architecture called the sacrament of small reparations. When you have harmed someone, no dramatic restitution can replace the steady discipline of small, reliable acts that rebuild trust. Return the borrowed charger, respond to texts, show up on time, accept correction without argument. These tiny repairs, repeated, become the mortar between wounded bricks. Let us consider the role of curiosity in suffering. Curiosity's question is not "why me?" but "what for?" It approaches pain as a phenomenon to be examined, not merely endured. Ask curiosity questions that invite discovery. What does this fear want to teach me? What behavior patterns did it bring into view? What small experiment could clarify the truth? Curiosity reduces reactivity and invites method. I recommend the neighbor's grid. Identify 3 people who are within walking distance, literal neighbors, colleagues, or nearby friends, and commit to being useful to one of them in an ordinary way this month. Help with a minor errand. Offer a listening ear. Bring leftover bread. This grid grows social capital in a geographically accessible zone, so that when larger needs arise, help can flow quickly without bureaucratic friction. Honor the seasonality of emotion. Do not demand the same equilibrium every day. Some days are for grief, others for practical motion. Both are legitimate. Write a short sentence on days when you must be productive. Today I function as a steward of tasks. Write another short sentence on days when you must feel. Today I function as a steward of mourning. These declarations reduce inner conflict about what the day requires. There is fierce dignity in the habit of intentional absence. Learn to be absent from harmful social media, draining conversations, or toxic environments without dramatics. Intentional absence is not avoidance, but self-preservation used for the sake of future service. Tell one person if you must. Otherwise, let the absence be clean. Your attention is a resource. Protect it. Cultivate the art of small gratitude gestures. Once a week, send a brief, specific note of thanks to someone who influenced you. The note need not be long. One sentence that names what they did and why it mattered. These notes enlarge community and remind you that the ledger of life includes deposits, not only debits. Finally, ground yourself in a conviction that suffering rarely produces a final verdict about the worth of a life. Lives are long, and judgments made in a season of pain often misread the full arc. Live as if your current weather is a chapter, not the whole narrative. Make one small choice each day to tend a value that will matter decades hence. Kindness, patience, craftsmanship, curiosity. These are slow investments that compound. I close this installment with an invitation. Take one item from this list, any single small practice you have not yet tried, and commit to it for 2 weeks. Do not choose the largest or most poetic. Choose the one you can see yourself doing tomorrow morning. Begin. The act of beginning is its own form of defiance against the shriveling effects of suffering. Begin, and let the accumulation of faithful small starts transform the contours of your freedom. There are ways to measure a day other than by accomplishment. I learned this slowly. Measure by fidelity. At night, instead of counting what you completed, count the places you refused to betray your intention. Did you answer kindly when you could have been sharp? Did you do the modest job without complaint? Did you keep one promise to yourself? These measures are quieter, but over years they compound into the architecture of a life that can withstand storms. Do not despise them because they are unimpressive. In the furnace of trial, Only unimpressive virtues persist. You have been taught, perhaps, that meaning is manufactured by great acts. Great acts are sometimes necessary and sometimes impossible. In the daily forge, greatness is translated into 1,000 tiny choices to be decent when no one watches. I covenant with you. Become excellent at small things. Let your excellence be an act of worship. Worship not of perfection, but of attention. Attend to the corners of your life that no camera will see. Polish them until they shine for your own eyes. That polish will reflect back when the lights return. There is a practice I have called the 3 stones. When life feels chaotic, pick 3 things you can control and make them immovable for a week. One might be your bedtime. One might be a phone-free dinner. One might be a daily 15-minute walk. Place mental stones there and refuse to move them. These small immovables anchor your day. People who have built houses know the value of cornerstones. Let the 3 stones be the cornerstones of your season. Suffering asks of you, oddly, for imagination. Not for fantasies that deny reality, but for imaginative ways to serve the real world from a position of limitation. If your capacity has shrunk, how can you still bless? If your schedule is strangled, what tiny offering can you still make? Imagination repurposes scarcity into creativity. A mother who can no longer lift a child may still write a note each evening. A man who has lost employment may still volunteer 2 quiet hours. These small imaginative acts keep the socket of service lit even when the main line is down. When you are tempted to run from your life, remember that flight sows new fields of anxiety. I do not romanticize staying in a bad situation that can be left with virtue. I insist only that you test flight motives. Will leaving be an act driven by courage and hope, or by impulse and fear? Ask these questions plainly, and then design a plan that preserves dignity, both yours and others. When leaving is warranted, leave with a clean hand and a prepared next step. Closure is an ethical practice that spares you future regrets. There is a medicine called structural gentleness. It is not sentiment, but architecture. Build your day so that when pain arrives, the structure protects you. A fixed morning routine, a clear work boundary, a time each day for human contact, a nightly walk. Predictability doesn't deny wonder, it frees space for it. Structures are not prisons. They are scaffolding on which freedom practices its muscles. I want to speak of the adult's duty to name small truths aloud. We understate ourselves and overstate the world's cruelty. Say what is true in modest sentences. I am tired. I am frightened. I am trying. When truth is verbose, it bores or lies. When it is concise, it summons proportionate help. Train yourself to use short sentences in hard moments. They focus attention and make available the help that matches the harm. Suffering often produces an interior politics, factions of the soul arguing for indulgence, for flight, for battle, for surrender. Name those factions. Give them titles. The accuser, the caretaker, the strategist, the child. And let each speak, then appoint a judge, your highest value. Ask that judge to render a decision. This method externalizes internal chaos and helps you act with deliberation rather than by default. There is a danger in making meaning too metaphysical too quickly. Abstract meaning can be a comfortable distance from the raw, ugly work of living differently. Meaning is not only a large idea, it is 1,000 small choices to be kinder, to repair, to show up. Avoid the trap of thinking that an idea alone will salvage you. Ideas are maps. Walking the map is the point. Translate any noble sentence into a next step you can do within 45 minutes. Doing converts belief into habit. You will sometimes stumble into what I call the moral embarrassment. That dissonant moment when you see clearly what you ought to have done and are ashamed you did not. Shame is sharp. It can either paralyze or correct. Choose correction. Design one honest act to repair what you can and accept the cost of the rest. The moral embarrassed are not condemned if they turn their embarrassment into motion. Motion redeems the moment into a lesson. Let us talk of mentorship in the shadow of hardship. Mentors are not chiefly advice dispensers. They are cultural anchors. Seek mentors who have walked long and kept steady, even if they are only a book in a life you study from afar. Read biographies of those who have borne suffering without losing charity. Learn what practices sustain them. Prayer, communal rhythms, craft work, love. Absorb their habits and translate them into your local grammar. There is a theological caution I will not avoid. When people suffer, they sometimes infer moral causality where none exists. I must have sinned to be punished. Resist the facile calculus of punishment and guilt. Some suffering is consequence, some is contingency, some is cosmic weather. Where you can identify a cause, own it, and repair it. Otherwise, treat suffering as a challenge to character rather than as a verdict on worth. We must admit that sometimes endurance requires medical and therapeutic aid. Courage includes knowing when to seek help that changes biology and psychology, therapy, medication, physical rehabilitation. If you are tempted to decline such help out of pride, imagine a craftsman refusing a tool because he thinks tools are weaknesses. Tools enable skill. Use them when they are apt. Practice a technique I call fourfold witnessing. When you are tempted to narrate only your own pain, practice telling the story in four voices. The factual, what happened. The emotional, what you felt. The communal, who else was affected. And the hopeful, what you will try next. This plural voice prevents narcissistic contraction and invites perspective. Understand the economy of small ask, small give. When you are suffering, practice making small, specific requests rather than vague pleas. Instead of, I need help, say, could you come by for 30 minutes tomorrow? Instead of, I am overwhelmed, say, would you mind getting groceries this week? People want to help but often lack clarity. Make their help possible. There is an honorable stupidity in heroism that confuses silence with strength. You do not prove your toughness by not speaking. You prove it by speaking with discretion. Speak to trusted people when you are hurting. The act of verbalizing transforms isolated pain into shared reality that can be addressed. Silence sometimes shelters shame. Speech sometimes unbinds it. Consider the spiritual economy of small consecrations. When grief presses, consecrate one ordinary object to a sacred memory. Perhaps a mug becomes the cup you drink from when you remember someone you lost. Perhaps a corner of a garden is planted in their honor. These small consecrations make memory embodied and prevent either obliteration or obsessive rehearsal. There are practical boundaries with technology that matter. If social media amplifies your sense of failure, set deliberate limits. A phone-free hour in the morning, a weekend off, an app that restricts scrolling. Technology is neutral. The architecture you build around it determines whether it becomes a lifeline or a leash. Be ruthless in protecting your attention. You will sometimes be tempted to measure progress by peaks. I urge you to measure by breadth instead. Breadth means how many domains of life you can steward. Work, relationships, health, craft, even minimally. An inch of steady progress across several domains produces more resilience than a mountain in one and deserts in the rest. Diversify your attention as you would diversify a portfolio. I insist on practicing the grace of small decline. There are seasons when you must scale back purposeful activity and accept that your capacity is reduced. Decline with dignity. Announce honestly, delegate with clarity, and preserve signposts of meaning even as pace slows. Decline is not failure when handled intelligently. It is stewardship of limited fuel. Let us confront anger. Anger can be a just engine for repair or a locomotive of harm. Train anger to run toward correction, not revenge. When anger rises, practice the 5-minute rule. Breathe, name the trigger, consider the correction you desire. Decide the smallest next step that would pursue justice, rather than retaliation. Do that step. Justice seeks repair. Revenge seeks destruction. Forgiveness is not a single action, but a slow apprenticeship. It is often earned, sometimes deserved, and occasionally extended without reciprocity. Forgive in ways that protect your boundaries. Do not mistake forgiveness for permission. Boundaries and forgiveness can coexist. Forgiveness is primarily for your soul. It unbinds you from the energy-sucking archive of offense. You will meet moments when nothing you do will change the outer problem. Then practice what I call the witness posture. Stand, sit, or walk with the intention of noticing. Observe the pain. Name it, and then place your hands on what you can do now. Breathe, stretch, send a brief message to someone. Make a modest plan. The witness posture prevents overwhelm from becoming paralysis. It reminds you that to bear witness to suffering is itself a moral act. There is courage in small confessions to trusted friends. I feel ashamed about X. I do not yet trust myself to handle ye. These sentences disarm illusions and invite restorative help. Confessions are not theatrical. They are strategic. Choose one trusted person who will receive such a confession without spectacle and practice once a month. Practice the hour of benign neglect. For 1 hour each week, deliberately ignore anxieties that have no immediate bearing on the present moment. Do not ruminate. Move fully into a restorative habit, reading, walking, cooking, and refuse to let the anxieties intrude. This is not neglect of responsibility. It is preservation of capacity. The hour restores you for better action later. Finally, remember that the grammar of your life changes with the verbs you practice. Habitual verbs: to repair, to attend, to apologize, to bless, become the scaffolding of identity far more than slogans or attitudes. Choose a verb to practice each quarter and let it govern your small decisions. This quarter, repair. Next quarter, listen, then serve. Over years, verbs accumulate into a character. There is a quiet theology to small attentions that often goes unnoticed until they are absent. I have discovered that sanctification does not always come in epiphanies. It arrives in the steady practice of noticing. Noticing the tilt of someone's shoulder, the way a name hesitates on a tongue, the small change in a neighbor's step. Attention is a sacrament. When you cultivate it intentionally, when you stop at least once each day to observe someone without preparing your reply, you begin to repair the world in the soft places where repair is most needed. Practice a discipline I call the 30-second mercy. In any interaction where irritation tempts you to be sharp, give 30 seconds of silent reframing. Consider the other person's possible exhaustion, pain, or misunderstanding. Then respond in a way that preserves dignity. This short mercy interrupts the gut reaction that often worsens situations, and instead invites small reckonings that heal. Over months, it changes not just singular conversations, but the tone of your relationships. Learn to translate abstract grief into practical chores. Break the heaviness into tasks that are mechanical and manageable. A load of laundry, a clear inbox, a meal planned for the week. These tasks do not solve sorrow, but they reestablish a rhythm of competence. The body's ability to do small things reliably becomes an anchor when the heart flutters. Do one domestic thing extremely well each day, and notice how the competence of the hands calms the storm in the mind. Experiment with a language of limits in your speech. Replace "I have to" with "I choose to" when you can. This tiny semantic shift reclaims agency. Even when obligations are non-negotiable, framing them as chosen duties, things you accept because you value them, changes the color of experience from victimhood to vocation. There is a practice of moral rehearsal I want you to try. Compose 3 sentences you would want someone to say about you at your simplest funeral. What would you hope they say about the way you treated others? The steadiness of your work. The steadiness of your work. Measure of your fidelity? Do not make this morbid. Make it clarifying. These sentences are not vanity. They are compass points. When choices multiply in difficult seasons, return to those sentences and let them orient your conduct. Suffering can make ordinary noises feel intolerable. Sirens, laughter in a different room. Even the tick of a clock. Learn to curate a soundscape that supports you. Create playlists that steady you. Choose podcasts that do not agitate. And allow silence when overload prevails. Sound shapes mood. Attend to it with the same care you give to food or rest. Practice the economy of small repair and speech. When someone offends you, do not immediately escalate. First, hold your peace long enough to inventory a responsibility you might bear. Second, if you must speak, do so with the intention of restoring a working relationship rather than winning an argument. Third, end with a small, clear next step. I will call you tomorrow. So the conversation has a trajectory toward mutuality. Repair language is precise, humble, and forward-looking. Adopt the posture of deliberate curiosity toward your own reactions. When anger or despair surfaces, ask, what is this feeling trying to protect? What narrative is it rehearsing? Who taught me to respond this way? This curiosity is not self-indulgence. It is method. It converts reactivity into inquiry and opens pathways for new responses to develop. When exhaustion becomes chronic, use the tool of scale-back reverence. Identify the non-essential commitments that you can pause without long-term harm. Announce them clearly and tenderly to those affected. The practice preserves your reputation for reliability while preventing the slow burn of depletion. Pause is not defeat, it is strategic conservation. There is a subtle dignity in the ritual of maintaining a small public calendar. Note 3 weekly anchors: 1 work commitment, 1 relationship appointment, 1 restorative practice, and treat them as sacred. Keep them visible and non-negotiable unless an emergency truly occurs. These anchors stabilize the week and create a predictable structure for meaning to grow. I counsel cultivating a vocabulary of gratitude that includes small, specific phrases you use often. Thank you for showing up. I noticed you did X. That helped more than you know. Using these expressions repeatedly trains your social environment to notice goodness rather than only failure. And it trains you to look for goodness to praise. Gratitude mutates complaining. In moments when moral clarity is elusive, practice the 5-minute adjudication. Set a timer and write down the options, the possible harms, the likely benefits, and the alignment with your core values. The constraint of time prevents paralysis by infinite analysis and forces you to choose responsibly rather than rashly. After 5 minutes, act on your best judgment and evaluate later. This cadence builds confidence in making tough calls. Recognize the restorative power of small public acts of contrition. If you hurt someone, speak a simple apology in public if appropriate. Name the harm, accept responsibility, and state one corrective plan. Public contrition humbles pride and often unclogs relational arteries that resentment had begun to block. Practice a particular kind of rest I call helpful solitude. Spend time alone, not to brood but to produce. Write, craft, compose a letter, or build something small. The aim is to convert solitude from passive withdrawal into productive restoration. The work you produce need not be shared. Its value is restorative, not performative. There is value in micro-celebrations. Each day, find one small victory. A sentence finished, a call returned, a kind act. And celebrate it briefly, a sip of good tea, a short walk, a moment of quiet praise. Micro-celebrations prevent the flattening effect of persistent hardship and keep the nervous system capable of enjoying. Train yourself in the discipline of visible courage. Pick one small thing each week to do that scares you slightly. Call someone you've been avoiding. Speak kindly when you feel resentful. Admit a mistake. Do it in a way that is visible to at least one witness. Visibility strengthens courage because it moves bravery from private theater into practiced reality. Practice generosity toward your future self. Make small investments. Save a little money. Prepare a meal for tomorrow. Write brief notes to your future moods that your future circumstances will thank you for. Generosity to the future is a practical theology that trusts life will continue and that your small acts now will bear fruit later. Name and then practice a small moral discipline of attention. For 10 minutes each day, notice one person closely. How they speak, how they move, what their eyes reveal. Then do one small thing that acknowledges that observation. A compliment, a practical help, a brief message. Attention becomes service when followed by action. There is a way to use fashion of space for moral clarity. Create a small corner that is intentionally beautiful. An arranged chair, a plant, a simple object that you go to when decisions are hard. The corner acts as a physical signal that when you sit there, you will reflect with care. Objects can be anchors for the soul. When you must give bad news, practice the sandwich of dignity. Begin with a truth that affirms the other's worth. Deliver the difficult information plainly, and then offer one concrete step of help. This pattern reduces the damage news can do and keeps the conversation oriented toward mutual reality. Finally, refuse the flattening narrative that suffering always produces either bitter cynics or sanctimonious saints. Most of us live between these poles, messy and human. Embrace the ordinary complexity. Be kind, be tired, be unsteady, and be willing to try again. There's no final exam. There's only faithful attendance. Keep showing up. If you will, take one of these brief practices now. The 30-second mercy, the 3-stone anchoring, the 5-minute adjudication, or the visible courage step. Do it within the next hour and notice how small practice alters the shape of a day. Begin there and let the accumulation of tiny, careful acts shape the person you are becoming. Listen to me now, not as a lecture, but as a summons. You have walked a long corridor with me. Through questions, experiments, small liturgies, and deliberate practices, we have built scaffolds together out of habits, promises, and tiny acts of courage. Now we must make a final turn and stand at the threshold. The threshold will not promise that suffering ends. It will not promise that tomorrow will be easy. It will promise something rarer and more durable. That the way you respond can become the thing that redeems what you have endured. This final section is not an encore of what I have already told you. It is a tightening of the rope so you may climb with both hands, a synthesis into a posture that will hold when the lights dim and the audience leaves. If you remember only one thing from this long act, let it be this sentence. Suffering becomes freedom when you refuse to waste it. That refusal is not a sentiment. It is a daily labor. First, make a covenant with your attention. Attention is the currency of a human life. Where it goes, you will follow. Decide now what deserves the account of your focus. Choose 3 pillars, one for love, one for work, one for witness, and let them receive your best attention, however small the allotment. Guard those pillars jealously. When noise tries to rent space in your mind, resist it. The mind is porous. You must choose what floods it. The covenant you make with attention will become the architecture of your future days. Second, authorize ritual. Ritual is not superstition. It is a training regimen for the heart. Choose 2 rituals, one for morning that sets the tone of the day, and one for evening that closes it with honesty. The morning ritual might be a single sentence you say to yourself about who you intend to be. The evening ritual might be a brief inventory of one faithful action you took. These tiny ceremonies teach you to show up for yourself even when no one else does. They teach the nervous system to expect steadiness and to produce it. Third, elect a value to be your captain when storms arrive. Names matter here. Choose not a vague virtue but a single actionable value. Fidelity, tenderness, courage, truthfulness, that you can describe in one sentence and act on in one concrete way. When an excruciating choice comes, and it will, consult that captain. Ask, what would fidelity require now? What would tenderness look like here? What would courage demand of my small step? Let the captain have the final say, not the loudest fear. Fourth, form a short list of reparative acts you will carry out if cynicism or despair begins to feel persuasive. The list should be practical, not idealistic. Call a friend who once loved you well. Write a brief note of thanks to someone who was kind. Tidy the space where you sleep. Prepare a simple meal for yourself, and sit down to eat it without distraction. Keep this list where you can see it. When the dark voices gather, enact one item. Small, proving actions dilate hope. Fifth, promise yourself 3 public truths you will live by, and announce one of them to someone who will hold you accountable. Public truth is not about vanity. It is about leverage. When your resolve is only a private wish, it is fragile. When it is a shared promise, it acquires support and pressure that help you keep it. Choose carefully and keep the promise even when it is uncomfortable. The cost you pay is small compared to the cost of living by no promises at all. Now, allow me to sharpen what you have learned into a single practice I will name: the return. The return is 3 motions done daily. 1. The return of recognition. Pause and name, out loud if you can, one reality, a sorrow, a debt, a failure, or a love. Give it a name so it stops being an amorphous shadow. Naming is not giving power to the thing. It is giving it a place on the map. 2. The return of reparation. Do one small thing that corrects or tends to the named reality. The task should be feasible. An apology, a text, a small payment, a promise kept, a dirt weeded from a garden. The action is the muscle that recalibrates your moral body. The return of reorientation. Close that moment by asking, what will I attend to next? That continues the repair. State a tiny next step you will do within 24 hours. Then rest. Rest is not escape. It is the patience of a craftsman who knows the work requires stamina. Do this daily. The repetition will teach you more about your heart's shape than any theory. The return trains you to translate noticing into mending and mending into future direction. It makes you someone who not only knows sorrow but knows how to work with it. You must also prepare for seasons when the return feels insufficient. There will be afflictions too large for one person to turn alone. In those seasons, secure help that matches the scale of the wound. Trustworthy counsel, medical care, community structures, legal advice. Courage is not dogged stubbornness. It is the wisdom to use allies. Ask plainly. Accept help without shame. Doing so is not weakness. It is strategy. An equally crucial preparation is to rehearse the language of legacy long before your twilight arrives. Ask now, what would I like to leave behind, not an estate, but an example? What habits of speech, of repair, of courage, would I want the world to remember me for? Begin forming those habits in monthly increments. Legacy is not only what you bequeath, but what you embody now. Build an inheritance of character that does not require wealth to be transmitted. There is one last and most stubborn practice I require of you. The practice of compassionate non-attachment. This phrase resists easy translation but binds together everything else. It means loving fiercely while refusing to make the love a possession, working with zeal while accepting limits, being present without clinging to outcomes. Non-attachment is not indifference. It is a mature love that grants dignity and freedom to what you hold dear. It keeps you from the common tragedy of trying to possess life rather than to steward it. Now, a closing parable to carry with you as a talisman. Imagine a village at the edge of a dark forest. Each night, a wind comes that steals small things: saplings, cloth, the scent of bread. The villagers do not fool themselves into thinking the wind will stop. Some spend their nights building higher fences. Others lock themselves indoors and grow pale. But a small group gathers at dusk and, instead of fighting the wind, they lay out lanterns. They place them along narrow paths, in doorways, and at thresholds. The wind still blows, and it still takes what it will. But the lanterns do something the fences cannot. They create corridors of light where people can move without fear. They reveal the shape of the ground, and they show where the steps are safe. The lantern keepers do not stop loss. They make passage possible. You are called to be a lantern keeper, not in a grand headline sense. Not in a way that earns you applause, but in the local, stubborn, luminous way that helps others pass through their nights. You will be a lantern for someone if you keep a promise, if you tell the truth in love, if you stay when others flee, if you speak kindly to your own shame, if you tidy the small broken things that would otherwise trip the next traveler. The lantern does not stop the wind, but without it the passage would be darker and more dangerous. So kindle your lanterns. Tend them with discipline, feed them with attention, ritual, and the small, faithful acts we have practiced. Light one for love, one for work, one for witness. Let them be visible not because you want to be seen, but because a light is an ethical act in a world that sometimes prefers darkness. Be the person who, when memory of you survives, is remembered not for grand claims but for the warmth you brought into cold rooms. Finally, I will not close with a neat epigram. Life resists tidy endings. I close instead with a charge that is both humble and massive. When suffering arrives, and it will, do not ask only for why. Ask first and always for how, not how to avoid pain, but how to answer it. Choose one small action now that aligns with your highest declared value. Do it, and then do it again tomorrow. Repeat until repetition makes the action a temple you can enter even when the doors behind you are iron. You are not the sum of what has been taken from you. You are the sum of the choices you make today and the choices you will make tomorrow. Choose well. Tend your lanterns. Keep the return. Live by the captain you elect. Love with non-attachment. Repair without expectation of notice. And when the moment comes to stand in the center of your life's tragedy and call it by name, do so with a voice that belongs to someone who has learned to refuse waste and to insist upon dignity. Step forward then, not lighter but steadier, not ignorant of pain but expert in response. The gate is still before you. Pull your shoulders back, set your feet, and pass through.